This incident actually occurred back in April. This was in MCI on the freeway, multiple vehicles involved, northbound 101 between Windy and Cam Springs. And I want to make it clear, this is not a post-incident analysis, an AR. This is a chance to recognize some great work done by great individuals. That's what this is main purpose of this whole thing. But I do want to make it a learning experience, that I do want to provide the opportunity to give all of you and give everyone that wasn't there a chance to do some when-then thinking by hearing some of the things they did and what worked and what didn't work. But again, this is not a complete AR, PIA, or anything like that. There are missing pieces to it. It's not that in depth. I wanted really, again, the main point of this is to recognize great individuals. I will include information that they provided me on lessons learned and what they did and some of the command structure involved. And then I'll also bring this into kind of this trauma 10 specialist concept, and really kind of a trauma mindset, and what we're really looking at and how that applies to an MCI like this. But first and foremost, again, this is to recognize just great work. As somebody who now really isn't running calls, I'm living vicariously through all of you. I sit back and watch the calls and read and listen to the radio traffic. And for me now in my position, there's nothing cooler than watching great firefighters do great work. And this is an example of that. This is great firefighters doing great work. I encourage you, and I'll say this a couple times throughout this, to look at the names on this certificate and talk to them when you get a chance. Ask them what they did. Ask them what worked. Ask them what didn't work. Ask for ups and downs, and really get some information so that you can also learn. And I think not only was it great work done on this incident, but it was great work done after, and as evaluating how their response was. I went and talked to the crews and firefighters and engineers, captains, BCs, and every one of them were able to give me an up, but they also gave me the downs. They were like, you know what, I would have done this differently, or this would have worked better. It was obvious that they had evaluated the call the second they left to find out ways to make themselves better and to make the response better and really make all of us better. And they were talking as a group and sharing information, and that in itself is amazing. But they didn't stop there. They were sharing with other people. They were sharing their strengths and weaknesses, which in this business, sharing weaknesses or sharing things that you wish you'd have done differently or could have done better is not easy. And they had the humility, which to me, regardless of rank, is true leadership. They had the humility to step back and go, you know what, if I'd have done this would have worked out better. They were looking at all aspects of the incident and sharing. And that's important, because now not only will they be better on the next call, and will they do, they did great work on this incident, but not only will they do better, but the people they're sharing with are now getting slides in their slideshow so that they too can do better on the next event. And that's really important stuff. And we learn from every call we go on. Even a lift assist, we should be learning. If we're not looking. And the most dangerous firefighter on the fire ground is the one that can't see their own mistakes. So not that they made any mistakes. This, again, was great firefighter going on. But they looked at the entire incident and they evaluated it, and they came up with things that worked well and things that didn't. So I highly encourage you to go back and talk to them and gather intelligence, gather information, build slides for your slides so that you can do some when-then thinking. So I'll start this off with 2 videos. The first video is actually probably from a Tesla. It's a recording, and you'll actually see the vehicle going the wrong way up the grade coming towards this car. First time, I play it twice. So the first time, watch it, just watch the video. The second time, look at the left-hand corner. There's a camera on the left side of the car, and watch how fast the vehicles pass each other. The second video is actually a news footage. Gives you kind of a good overview of the event. So look on the left side, you'll see some headlights that shouldn't be there. Now watch it again, and this time look at that left-hand camera. Watch how fast they pass each other.
Now to a multi-vehicle crash in Camarillo that investigators say was caused by a wrong-way driver on the 101 freeway. It happened shortly after midnight. CHP says a driver was traveling southbound in the northbound lanes when they struck several vehicles head-on. A total of 11 cars were involved in the wreck, leaving more than 20 people hurt. 2 of the victims had to be extricated from one of the cars. They were taken to the hospital in critical condition. Both directions of the 101 were shut down for more than an hour. CHP is still investigating this accident.
So, Initial dispatch was a TC heavy response on the grade. Shortly after units went en route, Ventura contacted Battalion 23, advising of multiple vehicles, patients involved, and recommended an MCI level 2 response. The call notes suggested a chaotic scene with wrong way driver, head-on TC, and possible fatalities. So this is, again, northbound 101 between Cam Springs and Windy. The two rigs that arrived on scene first were Truck 54, followed by Medic Engine 52. Now, they were on the southbound side, the unimpacted side, and they came up on the scene. And although it's not common to do this, they made the decision based on the severity of the event, the fact that the freeway was going to be closed in both directions. They made the decision to park on the opposite side of the freeway and hop the K-rail to access the incident. And this, worked out for what they had here. It made sense in this given situation, and it actually played well into their staging of their ambulances later. So, Truck 54 captain is the IC. He assigns Medic Engine 52 to medical group. He assigns Truck 35, who made it down the northbound side, as rescue group. And he assigned the remaining members of his crew to Truck 35. They ended up doing two simultaneous extrications about 30 feet apart on the freeway of two Reds. 451 arrived on scene and became Medcom. So when Medic Engine 52 was given the assignment of medical group, a couple decisions were made. First off, they decided to not break up med group into treatment and triage and just assign those as tasks. And they felt with the complexity of the call, the way the cars were spread out, that this would work better for them. And so they just, when Battalion 21 got on scene and started putting equipment into the med group, the captain assigned them more at the task level rather than break it up into triage and treatment. And it allowed them to transition really quick and really kind of gave that mindset of we're doing both. We're doing triage and we're doing treatment. And that was the way they set it up. So when Medic Engine 52 crews gets off of their rig, they'd actually spotted about halfway on the event or in the incident scene. So you got about a quarter mile of vehicles spread out in different states of damage and people across the freeway. They actually had stopped about midway of the event. So the decision was made that the engineer and the firefighter would begin triage and patient count on the far north end, and the captain would go to the far south end, and they would start at different directions. And they were trying to get a count to give the IC because he wanted to know how many ambulances he would need. So after triage numbers were reported, they moved into the treatment, and this occurred pretty much automatically, although they did make a radio transmission stating that triage was done and we're transitioning into treatment. They were able to pivot pretty quick because of the way he set up his command structure, he felt, and they moved right into treatment. Now, while this is occurring, Engine 30 arrives on scene. Engine 30 hears notices that there's a lot of equipment coming on scene, ambulances and other fire apparatus, and he prompts the IC and says, hey, do you want me to take staging area manager? And he assumes the role of staging area manager to help clean up the resources that he have and have a better job of allocating them and again, organizing them. The other part of this is that it also helped with the ambulances. The decision was made to stage the ambulances at Truck 54. So this put them on the unaffected side of the incident, so a little bit, cleaner to get in and out for egress and ingress and egress. It also gave a very good spot or identified location, as Truck 54 is a pretty big truck. They said, go to Truck 54. That's where staging will be for the ambulances, and that worked out well for them in this situation. Again, good ingress and egress and a good thought process on that. While that was happening, Captain 30 just kind of folded in to keeping track of patients that were leaving the scene. And so they also then transitioned Captain 30 into transportation unit leader. Now, I know normally this is an EMS supervisor or somebody EMS related, an ambulance, whatever. This actually worked really well for them and was a recommendation that they would do it again. They liked the way this flowed. And again, it was heads up thinking by Captain 30 to kind of already start that process. The one thing they did say, though, is that you've got to set up transportation unit leader or group, if it's a group, as soon as possible, if not immediately. It's critical getting your patients off the scene and tracking them, and it's something that you should set up as fast as you possibly can. So as I mentioned, in most of the drills that we do, we set all the things up. We set everything, and in this case, they did not. They had a transportation unit leader, and the treatment leader was actually medical group. And then they had MedCom, and they task managed the stuff going on with the treatment and triage. So nothing wrong with that. You're using the system. And I think that's the key. What these crews did, and that's part of this whole trauma 10 thing, is they drove the call. They drove the call. They didn't let the call drive them. They let the system drive them. We have a system in place, an MCI, and we have policies, procedures, and plans, and all these things that come together. And they're tools for us to use. There's no such thing as we do A, B, C, and D. It's really we use what we need in that toolbox when we need it, based on the conditions of the patient, based on the conditions of the incident. And that's what they did. They drove the call. Example is this treatment unit leader. They didn't set up a treatment unit leader. They had a medical group, and they task managed the rest. Not a problem. They drove the call. And that's what made this one of the many things that made this an amazing response and great work by all involved. Again, they drove the call. This leads to some of the lessons learned. So kind of talked about triage and transportation. But the other part of this is also kind of how we set up our org chart and how that works. And one of the things I want to stress is that, we can set things up however we want. The boxes are just memory items. I see the incident command system as a job aid and a memory jogger and something to use so that I know what I need. In this example, they know they needed triage and treatment. Did they set up triage and treatment? No. But medical group knew that was a responsibility they had, and they managed it themselves. If it had been more complex, then they would have broken those up into leaders that would have taken charge of those. In this case, they did not need that. And so there's nothing wrong with it. The other part of that is the transport part. And I want to stress that they all said this: you need the transport unit leader, transport group supervisor, however you set this up. You need to set that up as soon as possible, because that's how you're going to get people off the scene, which again, that's our main goal, getting people off the scene. The other thing that they talked about was patient tracking, and couple points. I know their flagging ribbons can be cumbersome and they can slow things down. They made the point that flagging the ribbon would have helped. It would have helped them identify, especially the blues and the greens. It would have helped them recognize who were actually patients and who were not. And it also would have kept or limited that number of contacts so that you don't have 10 different firefighters going up to the same patient going, hey, are you okay? Hey, what are you involved in? They also made a decision to do something different on this. Again, they drove the call. Normally you go, okay, all the walking wounded come to me, and they gather them on a tarp or they gather them in one location. The decision was made not to do that because of the size of the scene. So what they did is they left the patients with their vehicles, and that's how they tracked them. And it worked out because they could say, hey, 30s, can you check on the 4 victims in the gray Toyota and give me a status check? And so they left them where they're at, and then if they transported or they moved them anywhere, they moved them from that location to wherever they were going to move them. But they left them there. This also helped the CHP because they could then identify who was involved with what vehicle. So they made a conscious decision to not gather all the patients, but to leave them in place, and this worked out great. This, again, is driving the call. It worked in this event. Maybe it doesn't work in the next one, but that's the point of all this system, is that we use what we need, how we need, when we need. So when it comes to MCI, and let me actually, before I go back, let me step back. There was a couple other things some lessons learned in there, and I want to come back out. Park fire resources on one shoulder of the freeway to keep open lanes for ambulances to come through. We had to reposition multiple fire engines, which took a fair amount of time in order to make a clear path for ambulances to come scoop patients. Set 2 staging locations for freeway-related MCIs. Example, northbound staging will be at Wendy in the 101. Southbound staging will be at Camp Springs in the 101. Use a separate commander TAC frequency for stage resources so that it doesn't interrupt other channels. So a couple other lessons learned and things that came up, and there's a ton more. Like I said, this is not a full AAR, PIA. I wanted to give you some things that happened with them and some things and show you some pictures. And I want to kind of talk about this kind of trauma mindset. I've been very fascinated by trauma for a very long time. Actually, a lot of us have, and we've talked about this, and there's actually a group that talks about it continuously. And I really believe that MCI will change in the next 5 to 10 years for sure. We're already seeing changes in triage type systems, and whether they work or not, whether they've been proven. That triage is probably the most controversial because there is really no proof that it works, and that's another story for another day. But it's there, and what can we do to make things better? And I think my thought process, and the thought process I kind of want to throw out to all of you to think about, is this. Get the red out. Our primary goal, our driving force, is the reds. We need to get the reds off the scene, and we need to get them to the hospital. And the sooner we do that, the better it is for them. The mortality rate goes down significantly for every minute less that they are on scene. And so we need to be pushing to get the red out. And I would say, if you really want to, from my experience, if you really want to manage the event, it's get the red out and manage the blues. So again, we have a chart for the ICS. The chart is a flow chart. I mean, if you look at this chart, it says safety officer, public information officer. Do we have those on this MCI? No. But are we thinking safety? For sure. Are we thinking at some point we're going to have to manage some kind of information? Are we liaison with CHP? Or are we liaison with other people? I mean, all of the things happen. And again, perfect example in this event was the fact that medical group did not break out triage and treatment. They managed it, again, at the task level, but they still were responsible for it. It's a job aid, more than we have to fill out these boxes. And I think for some reason in MCI, we feel we have to fill out all the boxes. What you do need to fill out is MedCom and Transportation Unit Leader. You definitely have to fill those out. You need to get those filled. And really, if you just said Med Group, MedCom, and Transport, at least you know that your hospitals are getting notified, your patients are getting off scene, and your patients are getting treated. So it really gets down to getting the job done. Get the red out and manage the blues. Reds are the driving forces, and don't wait to manage the blues. If you wait to manage the blues, you're going to be so far behind with them that bad things are going to happen. So put your focus on identifying the reds and transporting them out. Tarps and pretty tarps are cool and all, but they're kind of stupid sometimes because every time you move a patient, you're increasing that mortality rate because it's taking time to get them off scene. I'm not saying you can't move patients. What I'm saying is, if you're going to move them for a reason, because it's hazardous where they're at, it's not safe, or the only way to get them off scene is to do that. But don't move them just to move them. Have a plan in your head and an understanding that when I move them, it's not good for the patient. In a perfect world, if you could organize it, you'd treat them and transport them from the location you found them. Don't worry about whether you have ALS or BLS. I'll take a great EMT over an ALS provider any day, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't have ALS on there, but what I'm saying is most of the issues and needs are BLS treatable. And if you want to go look at March-E, you can look at what we're really looking at, think of the active shooter stuff that we do and what we're really trying to change. And if you look at the 10 things on the Trauma 10 certificate, it lists a bunch of those: keeping them warm, major hemorrhage, airway. All these things are really BLS skills. If you do end up moving them to the pretty red tarps and people are stacking up, then you've got to start banging on the head of transportation. Why are the patients not moving? If you see a lot of people sitting on a red tarp, you need to start pushing transportation. What are we, not enough ambulances? Are we not coordinated enough? Do we not have enough hospitals? Do we need air support? What is it that we need to get these patients off the scene? Blues. You have to manage the blues. This can't be something you do later. This can't be something you do as an afterthought. And it can't be done by the newest rookie on the department. It's like Rick. In reality, we should be giving Rick to our best crews because they're the ones that are going to go save us. But sometimes we get Rick and we take it as I got the worst job in the fire. I don't get to go put out the fire. And in reality, we need the most heads up crew. It's the same thing with managing the blues. You need somebody that's heads up, ready to go, and is going to manage those blues and can talk to people. These people are going to be agitated, angry, hurt, upset, tired, scared, a whole bunch of other things. And if you put a rookie in there or somebody that's not good at talking to people, you are going to have problems. Here's the things. All blues have the potential to go green, no matter how well we manage them because of heat, stress, etc. They have the potential to go green, maybe even higher, maybe red if we don't manage them. Blues will wander into hazard areas. It is a disaster scene. Blues will get angry and difficult to manage if they feel like they're not being taken care of. They will defecate and urinate in places you don't want them to, including in front of news cameras. Imagine how embarrassing this would be in front of 100 strangers, and I'm going to get more into this in a second. Blues will leave the scene. They will lose trust in us, and they will lose trust in what's going on. They will impede access to the incidents. They will get angry, etc., etc. If you're not managing them and you're not making them feel like they're being taken care of, then they're going to start getting uncomfortable and they're going to start doubting what we're saying. And this goes back to the flagging ribbon, you need to ribbon them off. If 10 firefighters come up to them, 10 different firefighters come up and ask them if they're okay, they're going to start thinking our system is broken and we don't know what we're doing. So you have to manage them correctly. So this is a story, and it's story time, and I'm trying not to delay this or lengthen this out much, but this is a good story because this is where the blues came from, and I happen to be on this incident. This was a train derailment that happened in Oxnard. We got there fairly late in the game, and as you can see, there's a circle of a bunch of blues, and then there's a bunch of firefighters, and we were not managing the blues. They were just wandering around. So at some point, think about this. You get on a train at 6 in the morning, and you're going to work. You have your cup of coffee, and you know when you get to work, you're going to the bathroom. You got a plan, you got a design, you got your system set for this. And then you flip a train car in front of you, and now you're standing on the train tracks. Your adrenaline's up, your body's spiked, and now you slowly start to come down from all this. What's the first thing you need to do? You need to go to the bathroom, because that's what you would have done anyways. Now your body's telling you, you will go to the bathroom now. They were talking, they had not planned on what to do with them. They had no plan whatsoever. And then now all of a sudden it's crisis mode. We need water, shade, and we need a bathroom. And they don't have one. I remember getting on the radio and going, there's 2 bathrooms over here for the field workers. We could probably bring them over here. I said it multiple times. The problem is because nobody was managing the blues, nobody was listening. And if somebody had been managing the blues, they would have been like, whoa, there's my answer. And it wasn't a rocket science, it's rocket surgery, man. It was right here. But the problem is nobody was responsible for them. And what ended up happening is one of the gentlemen ended up pulling his pants down and going to the bathroom on the tracks. Now you could say, oh, it happens. But here's the thing. What if that was your spouse? What if that was your teenage daughter or son? Or what if they had gone in their pants? And with the way social media is now and the way things get out, now they're on video camera and now they're a meme. How are you going to feel? That was, to me, one of the things that sticks in my head. It was one of my worst days. I've had many, but that one really stuck in my head because we didn't take care of the people we were charged to take care of. So just think about the blues. Get the red out because they're your primary driving force, and manage the blues. So what do blues need? They need shade, shitters, and water. So as example, a shade tree, maybe the shady side of the building, an easy up. They need portable toilets. Maybe you can find a park toilet. They need bathrooms. They need a lot of things, but they need that in a hurry. And that don't wait. You hear, oh, the bus is coming. You know what? That's great. Still start pushing this stuff forward. We had the hand crew bring stuff out to that train derailment, and it was amazing how quick we were able to get stuff set up. So they need bathrooms, water, and shade. They need somebody who can communicate well with them. I already said this. They need a destination away from the scene. See if you can find a building. The crews on the MCI, on the freeway, had decided what they were going to do is put people in. They already had a plan. Captain 30 had a plan. They're going to put them in the RAs to get them out of the elements. And then they were already thinking, what if we move them to McDonald's on Pleasant Valley? There's bathrooms, there's water, there's food. We can get them there. And they were ready to move that plan forward. That plan came before they needed it. And that's what we need to do with the blues. They're also going to need secondary need, foods, chairs, ability to charge phones, anything to make them comfortable, and information. They're going to need to know where they're going next, how they're going to get there, how they can contact their family, where can their family come. All of these things happen to happen. So again, I want to reiterate, this was great firefighting. Great firefighters doing great work. This Trauma 10 is all about you guys, and I appreciate it. I appreciate the learning that you're giving all of us. I appreciate what you did, and appreciate just the amazing work and the ability to help us all get better for the next event. I'll leave it with this. Get the red out, manage the blues, and do good work like all the people on this Trauma 10. Thank you very much.